Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 78 of the Parenting Autism Podcast. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by my wife, Sandy, and we're here to talk about our lovely 8-year-old son, Bryce, and what we're doing.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We haven't been on this year.
We haven't?
No.
Oh,
the last time we recorded was right before Christmas.
Oh, it's been a long time.
We have Christmas, we have New Year's, but part of that major reason is we had a fabulous New Year's and went away to Tampa, Florida, and did some fun things we'll talk about. But I picked up some type of cold virus while we were gone, and I have been sick for the past 14 days. So today is the first day that I am feeling well enough to do a podcast. So we're on here, and we're going to give some updates.
Back on track.
And today's primary topic is going to be about some breakthroughs that we've had with getting into Bryce's mind, which I'm very excited to share about that. But before we go there, I wanted to read a review that we got.
Oh, cool.
And give a shout out to Queen's Grant 12.
Okay.
Who left us a review and said, I got into listening to your podcast regarding autism because my daughter's boyfriend has been working with a family for 10 years. You three are beyond amazing. Sharing your story with others must help, comfort, inform all your listeners. I just saw a picture of Bryce, and oh, what a handsome dude. I look forward to your podcast. Sending hugs to all. Her name is Sandy. And again, it was another Sandy. Whoop, whoop.
All right.
And thank you, Sandy, for sharing that with us.
This is the one you're looking forward to. This is the next one.
We're finally back.
Yeah, and we appreciate the reviews.
Yeah.
So anybody that's out there that wants to leave us a review, we would appreciate it, and we'll give you a shout out on the show.
Well, we will, and I don't think people realize how much that helps other listeners find us, and so that's really the important reason why we are now going to be asking for people to leave them, because we get some private notes, but from those same people, we never see the reviews. So they help. They help other people find us. And we've got a lot of things planned for this 2022 year, and helping our autism community and helping others find us will be a big part of that.
Don't keep it all to yourself.
You're so silly.
Okay.
So we had a great Christmas. Bryce was fully engaged, had a great time, and then we went to Tampa, and we came back from that 3-day trip saying how amazed we were with how well he did.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. When did I take him to the aquarium? How long ago was that?
Well, that would have been 3 years ago, so that's night and day.
Well, listen, 3 years ago, I took Bryce to the aquarium. Sandy was working in the area, so we were in Tampa. I took him to the aquarium, and he saw the escalator, and somehow he located the elevator. And that's all we did for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then we left. And I can't even tell you how much I paid for those tickets. It was ridiculous to ride the escalator and the elevator. And this trip was a total different kid.
Well, and it wasn't even just that. We also went to the Tampa Zoo, which we visited back in June for my birthday. So we're talking 6 months later.
Yeah.
What a world of difference in 6 months. As far as his awareness and being clued in, asking questions, understanding that we were in different quote unquote countries because the animals are located kind of by where their origin is throughout the zoo. And we started his diet after my birthday. So it was after that trip that we started in June.
Yeah.
So we're about 7 months into this.
Gluten-free, casein-free.
A lot of free. Anything that Bryce was sensitive to, we removed.
Mostly,
and I would say that I was thinking about it because I knew we'd be talking about this on the podcast. I'm going to say it's very safe to say that 80% of the time his diet is clean.
Yes.
And
I agree.
yes, it's difficult and we make exceptions from time to time when we're traveling or when there's a special reward for him. It's rare. 80% of the time, this kid's diet is clean and free of all the allergens or sensitivities for him.
Yeah.
And then we've been seeing the autism doctor and the functional medicine doctor who's made some changes. And I want to say that is it folic acid?
Folinic acid.
Folinic acid. I personally think that's the game changer for Bryce. I think there's a lot of things, but that's the one that just on some feedback that we've seen and other things, his attentiveness and his quickness to respond to us and him just like we're watching football. He goes, "Oh, are you watching football? I like it when you like football, Mommy, because I know you like it. So I cheer for it." Like the things that he would have never before paid any attention to what we were doing, or we would have to like pull conversations out of him, words out of him. It's like pulling teeth. Today, I pick him up from therapy. And again, this happens almost every day, but this is just fresh. I pick him up, we're leaving, and he says, "I love going to therapy." And then he starts telling me something else. I mean, and he's like, "Where are we going, Mommy?" Because we're going a different direction because I forgot to drop off my UPS letter for work. So, but he's asking, "Where are we going, Mommy?" "We're going in a different direction." "Oh,
cool.
That was good, buddy. We're going to go to the UPS box." I mean, so many examples are out there.
And I want to chime in that not only the folinic acid, but also his bowels. So we have him moving regularly now, where back in June he was going only every 4 to 6 days. So, and with that, you have to keep in mind, if your bowels aren't moving, your body is reabsorbing the toxins that it's trying to rid itself of. So we have to take that into account too.
Yeah, that's true.
Now that those are moving, he's able to get that stuff out of his body.
Yeah.
And his digestive system is really starting to work now. And we've seen the self-injurious behaviors all but disappear. I mean,
well, and that is because he's able to communicate verbally so much more to us, which we'll get into even a little more.
Yeah.
So I personally feel like Bryce is about at the best that he could be right now. And I know he's going to continue to progress, but I feel like he's flourishing. I mean, I have not seen him this engaged. And it's not just with us. I mean, other examples is I heard him playing with Auntie Sue last night, and he's like, "I missed you so much." And when they were hanging up, it used to be that we would have to kind of hover over or prep him to say, "Now make sure you say goodbye and don't just hit the button. And if you leave to go to the bathroom, let her know where you're going." I mean, this is stuff we've been teaching him and coaching him and helping him. Last night, I heard him excuse himself to go to the bathroom with her because they do FaceTime videos playing their game. And then when he came back and it was time for them to wrap up, he goes, "I really like playing Animal Crossing with you, Auntie Sue. It was so fun playing with you." I mean, and then I went in there. He goes, "I said goodbye to her." And I said, "You did great, buddy."
Yeah.
But it was without us prompting him.
Yeah.
And even greeting Miss Melanie, his ABA therapist, at the door the other day, I almost always have had to say, "Okay, it's Miss Melanie. Invite her to come in. Say hi to her." But I've been trying to back off of that because I want to see what he can do on his own without me prompting.
Yeah.
And we opened the door and he's like, "Hi, Miss Melanie. How was your day?" And then she's like, "I had a good day. How was yours?" He goes, "Mine was great." And then he walked her on in and I'm like, wow, like he initiated the conversation. I'm looking at her going, "Did you hear that?" She's like, "I know, he did that the other night too."
Yeah.
So it's like big, big, big wins for us with Bryce right now.
Yeah. I would just recommend that if you live near a MAPS doctor or functional medicine doctor, I highly recommend it. They look at things that we don't know to look at, and they help our kids without using drugs. I mean, we haven't used any prescription drugs for Bryce so far, and we've seen a wonderful improvement.
And we didn't know what kind of improvements we would see. And I realize there's a large amount of combining factors here.
There is.
And part of it is that you and I work with him constantly. I mean, we are like his ABA techs
Right.
24/7.
He's getting older.
He's got a lot of therapists. He is getting, more comprehension.
We changed his diet.
Yep.
There's just...
It's a lot of things.
It's a lot of things, and it's all coming together.
But I do believe that has definitely helped, and it's all about timing. So I'm not telling anybody that if you go, it's going to be your solution, because we don't give any of that. In fact, I should have the disclaimer that says, we're not recommending that you do what we do. We're on here just to share
what we've done,
that what we're doing and what seems to be working for Bryce, and really just to give others who don't even live in the world of autism like we do, but it gives them a perspective as to what our world is like, what we're doing to help Bryce. I think therapists listen to this podcast as well. It might give them an idea for one of their, clients, and things that could help them or to recommend. So that's really what this is all about. And I will tell you, though, it was really good stuff. And when we went to Tampa, he was great at the zoo. He got to feed a rhinoceros, which was very cool.
Yeah.
We ponied up and got him like a private experience. It was worth every dime. He was so excited. And we're going to be putting together a video and sharing that on our YouTube channel, which we'll announce once it's up there.
Yeah.
But so that was really cool. One thing that I wanted to just share from the aquarium that I thought was a really big breakthrough was they had a stingray area, and the lady was making announcements through a speaker.
You could pet the stingrays.
But Bryce has an issue with loud sounds, and especially unexpected loud sounds, and where they're coming from and that sort of thing.
Wow.
And then she was announcing what to do and how you should pet the stingray, because you only do it in certain spots. And then I think you tried to get him to do it, but he wasn't quite comfortable doing it.
Well, let's go back to, he has a fear of people making announcements over the loudspeaker because he watched the movie Aliens. And so,
you think it ties to that?
Oh, absolutely. He said whenever we're in a store and somebody makes an announcement, he's quickly, "What was that, Daddy? What was that?"
See, I didn't even tie it to that.
So that still bothers him.
We
because on the movie Aliens, they announced that the planet was going to explode or something. So it's a serious thing when somebody comes over the speaker to announce something, and he has to make sure that he understands it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just say there's more explanation as to why the PA sound system bothered. And then he was asking me, where's that coming from?
Yes.
And I showed him the girl that was talking, and she had a headset, and here are the speakers. So we kind of got past all that, but his little mind was still processing it. And we had gone with some friends. They had met us there. So we're all 5 about to leave the area. And Bryce says, I need to go talk to her. And I think you were like, come on, let's go.
I was almost ready to nudge him to go along. Right. And then I thought,
but I looked at you and I'm like, let's let him go. Because if he's wanting to talk to somebody.
He did not want to pet the stingrays. And we didn't, maybe it was because he was scared or what. But
we didn't know why. So I thought he just wanted to, honestly, I thought he was going to ask her something about the speaker. Because not about the stingray. So we go back and he goes over to her, and he said, I don't want to touch it or something like that. So she's like, well, you don't have to touch it. It's okay.
He says, I'm afraid it's going to sting me.
Yep. So then she explained that they remove the stingers, or they shave them down, I think she told him. So there's no way that he could get hurt. And then she said, there's just a certain way you touch him. She goes, and then he's like, I don't want to do it. And she said, okay, you don't have to do it. And then he was asking her about how she was talking through the thing. So he got his questions answered about that. And then she said, would you like me to show you how to do it? And he said, yes.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay. So she went over and she showed him, don't do it down the middle because they don't really like that. But if you pet on the sides, they'll be okay. She showed him literally how to do it. And then he wanted to try it. And then you and him were trying it together. And he ended up petting it, and he thought that was really cool. And we went over to thank her, for being so kind and hands-on. And she said it was only her second day. We're like, well, you did a great job. Yeah. So it was really cool. But just leaving that whole experience with him advocating for himself and explaining what his fears were, why he didn't want to do it. But I think part of him did want to do it. He was just trying to say, why he wasn't comfortable doing it. And he got through it, and then he was so proud of himself. Oh, my goodness. And then he talked about how he did it the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So that was like a huge thing.
Yeah. And then we're out on the balcony where they're having a little dance party, and they had snowballs, I think. We were throwing snowballs, and then he noticed the big ship next door. And he said, "What's that, Daddy?" I said, "Well, that's a ship." And he's like, "I want to go on that ship." I'm like, "Okay, I'm not sure that we can, but let me look it up." And it happened to be a naval museum of a cargo ship that the Navy used to use.
World War II.
Yeah, World War II.
Mm-hmm.
So after we were done the aquarium, we headed over there, and wow, did we have the best tour guide
Yeah, we did.
of anything that we've ever done, I think.
Yeah.
And he took us, I explained to him that Bryce had autism, and so he took it upon himself, I think, to take us through the whole ship, because
he
that's
wanted to.
not something I don't think he normally did,
Right.
And he was there to tell people about the ship, but there really wasn't anybody there when we got there. So I think he just...
Yeah, and then we saw different people throughout our tour. But
Yeah.
no, we definitely got the VIP
Bryce
service.
got to sit on the gun and turn the gun, and then he showed him the anchor and the big steering wheel. And
So
Bryce was just having a time.
He wasn't. While he was sitting in the seat on the front deck, and a real live airplane was flying over us. So he's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "It's an airplane." And he goes, "Oh, I will not shoot it down."
Yeah.
That would not be good.
I don't want to shoot it
He really
down.
thought the gun was loaded, and that on his game you shoot down airplanes or
Right.
enemy aircraft. I would not do that. That will not be good.
Right.
I will not shoot down the plane. We're like, the tour guide's kind of looking at him. I'm like, "Yep, that's good, buddy. That's so nice."
It was great. It really was.
But it was so cute, and he got to do so many different things. He was very interested in the kitchen. And I think the appliances and just and he wants to go see other ones. And then what's that game that's on the PS4 that has the warships? Because I really didn't know where his interest came from, but he was playing that game the other day, and it looked like those ships, and that's what he was telling me about. So it was some PS4 game that he had seen on there, and with the shooting. So when he saw a live one, he was very interested, which when you get to history class, he's going to eat that stuff up.
Oh, yeah.
So, it was very cool.
Be good. Yeah. So that was really exciting for us, that whole weekend and experience. And
it was.
So we had his EEG done.
Yeah,
too.
that's been since we've recorded. So the EEG was just a 1 hour EEG, which we kind of had to do to prep for the sleep study overnight EEG. And the good news is that they didn't see anything, which I didn't expect them to. And I'm not sure what all they were looking for, but this time we'll be in there for 24 hours and we go there in another week and a half. And I think at that point we might be able to see what's going on if they have the machines in there. And really the purpose of this has nothing to do specifically with his autism. This more has to do with the fact that he had the brain hemorrhage when he was a baby. He hasn't had an MRI done since he was 9 months old, and he hasn't had an EEG done since he was 4 years old. So it's been 4 years. And when we had the last one done, there was a little bit of spike activity in the area where he had the brain bleed, which just means that he's still susceptible to having seizures. And studies do show that if you have autism, because it's neurological, you are even more susceptible to having seizures. And as he continues to grow, like I don't want to say concern, but in the back of my mind, I know as he approaches puberty and his brain changes again, that leaves him vulnerable. I know you wanted to say something, but I just wanted to finish my thought because with my cold, I could still forget it. But the other thing is that we've been doing a lot of different supplements with him lately, where we've been trying to change the speed of his brain to help him be more responsive, which apparently is working. But we wanted to make sure that we also weren't going to trigger something that would cause a seizure for him. So those were our reasons. Go ahead, babe. Sorry.
Yeah, I forgot what I was
Did you?
gonna
I'm
say.
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
If I
It wasn't
didn't
a big
finish
deal.
that, it would have been gone.
It's all
So
good.
anyway, so that's why we're doing it. We'll get this new one with the overnight study, and then in February we have the MRI scheduled.
Yeah. And I can't remember what I was going to say about that, but okay.
If it comes back later, we can do it. So I think, those are the highlights that's been going on for the past 4 weeks or so.
I know what it was.
Good.
Well, not specific to that. I
That's
forgot
okay.
what that part was, but we did go to the eye doctor last week.
Yeah, good.
So I brought up some YouTube videos for him to watch before we went because he has sensitivity to bright light. So it's hard for him to transition from inside of the house to the outside of the house when it's a bright sunny day. And I saw him squinting, like he'd have to move closer to the TV to see some of his schoolwork. And he's had a hard time recognizing some people. So we wanted to take him to the eye doctor just to make sure everything was good and, what it could be. So I explained all that to the eye doctor, and then they were going to dilate his eyes. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, you can't really...
It's hard to explain what that's going to be like because he doesn't know what the word numb means.
Right.
Which is kind of how your eye feels.
And we just said that it was going to be blurry and bright. So, and he handled it really well. They had to put drops in 2 or 3 times to get them dilated to where they needed them. But we got to the doctor and he's like, well, based on what you told me, I was really expecting to see some type of bacteria or something inside of his eye. I forget what he said exactly, but he said his eyesight is perfect and he's got a little bit of dry eyes, but that's really nothing to be concerned about, not to the point where we need to do anything. But he's good. So I'm like, okay, great. So then I'm thinking maybe those issues are related to his stroke because that's where his stroke was in his vision part. So maybe that's why he's not recognizing some people that he sees and the transition from dark to light and all that stuff.
Well, yeah. And that's what I was going to say. When he did have the stroke and we knew the area of the bleed, the doctors told us then we will not know the extent of the damage until Bryce can tell us things. Mm-hmm. And Bryce is just now being able to let us get a little deeper into his thoughts and his brain. And I wasn't sure, like when I go to the eye doctor, I have to do the A or B, 1 or 2,
he didn't have to do that,
and you said he didn't have to do that. Because I thought with Bryce, sometimes his yes means no and his no means yes. And the doctor could be thinking he's answering one way when he means the opposite, but you said it wasn't that way, which was great. And it is really another miracle and blessing that his vision is as good as it is as far as him being able to see and having 20/20 vision. He doesn't have any peripheral vision issues that we know of as well, which was another thing they said we wouldn't know until he was older. So yeah, we're thrilled. That was a really great report and something that we just hadn't done yet because we didn't feel he was capable of having good results, or effective results is what I should say, that we'd really know the answers. So that's a lot that's been going on. So, these breakthroughs that I want to talk about a little bit in depth. So with me being sick, I was quarantined to Bryce's room and he went to our room, and I really haven't had quality time with him. It was kind of funny in a sad way, but funny that when he learned that I was sick and he's afraid of COVID, even though I test negative for COVID, but I had something going on and he could hear me coughing and everything.
He was avoiding you like the plague. He
screamed, he went, ah, and he ran to the other room. Daddy, come get my stuff, Yeah. So, but then I thought, well, isn't that great? He knows to stay away from sick people. Mm-hmm. But he really did keep his distance from me. And I told him, I said, buddy, you're not going to get it, but we can't have any snuggles and we can't have any kisses. And that was probably the hardest part of being sick the past couple of weeks. But so finally we got to a point about 3 nights ago that I could lay with him at bedtime. And that's when we have our best conversations because he's not distracted.
Right.
And he likes to talk at nighttime. But this time I thought, let me ask him some questions. And so I just asked him about the issue that we have with him when he's being shushed, which we've talked about in recent episodes because it's become a really big deal that if somebody like puts their finger over their mouth or says shh or indicates anything like that, it really upsets him. I mean, like really upsets him. And so first, he would fall to the floor sometimes. He would try to run and escape sometimes. We've been really trying to work on this and explain to him, why it's being said and why we're doing it, and that we're not telling him he can't talk forever. Because he had kind of said something like he thought that meant that he couldn't talk forever. Nope, that's not it. We explained all that. It was getting better, and he was starting to, instead of falling or hurting himself or escaping, he was using his words to whoever was telling it to him and saying that he was upset. In fact, I think we shared last time he had said that to Mama, my mom, when he was over there, and he told her, which is kind of interesting because this leads into my conversation, he told her he shut down 50% when she told him to hush. So, and it's cute the way he talks because he always compares it to a video game. But he shut down 50%. So when I ask him, are you able to tell me why it makes you, and I say, how did it make you feel? And he says, it makes me angry. And I said, okay. And he doesn't use that word often, and he actually doesn't get angry often. Mm-hmm. But I've seen the anger. So I said, okay, can you tell me why it makes you feel angry? And he said, because I'll turn off. And I said, what do you mean by you'll turn off? Well, if I have to shush and stop talking, then I can't breathe anymore and I will turn off and I will die. And I don't want to die. So the big aha moment was there. So I just stay very calm. And we do all this conversation laying down in the dark. And I said, listen, I'm so glad you told me that that's what you're afraid of. But you won't turn off and you won't die or stop breathing because you're not talking. I said, do you talk when you're sleeping at night? No. And I said, and do you stop breathing or do you wake up in the morning? I'm still breathing. I wake up in the morning. I said, right. So you can stop talking, but you'll still keep breathing. And he went, oh, now I understand. Thank you, Mommy, for telling me that.
Yeah.
Like that was really how the conversation I went down. And I said, well, thank you, Bryce.
He's saying that
for
a lot
telling
lately.
me that.
He's
that
saying,
I understand.
Thank you. Now I get it.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah. And
cool.
I thanked him. And I said, well, thank you for answering my question and telling me that you thought you would shut down, because now I can tell you, you won't turn off and you're not going to shut down and you won't stop breathing. It will be okay.
And so the first thing that he said to me when I got up the next day was, Daddy, when somebody, he said, what did he say? Daddy, when somebody shushes me, I turn off and I stop breathing. Like right out of the blue. I didn't even know where that came from, or I had no idea that you had that conversation.
Right.
And I said, what do you mean you stop breathing? He's like, well, I shut down and I can't breathe. I said, well, when you stop talking, your mouth is closed. I said, but you can still breathe through your nose. And I said, try it. And so he did it. And he's like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah, so, like he needed your second opinion validation,
so,
but it was like the enlightenment that, oh, this is my problem, which he's trying to tell you.
Yeah.
So then you shushed him last night, and then you're like, man, it just happens. I'm like, I know. We don't realize how often Bryce has brought it to light for us.
Just do it. Yeah.
So you shushed him about something, and then
because you were sleeping.
Oh yeah, because I was again not feeling well.
Yeah.
And so you were walking him from one end of the house to the other end, and then he told you that he held his breath
from one end to the other.
So he thinks he's holding his breath. He's still breathing through his nose, but in his mind, he's like, because he thinks he has to do that. But we're, it's like he's getting these concepts. But if he wasn't able to start answering some of these why questions for us,
it would be a fall to the ground. It would be a meltdown.
We have spent the last 6 years trying to crack codes, So I'm encouraged that even though it's still not plain English, it's more clues for us, and easier, bigger, larger clues for us. Yeah. So that was a big one on the hushing. Then, you had your question. So since I started that question time with him, the next night it's like, I want Daddy. And Daddy, you need to ask me questions.
Yeah,
I heard him say that. So you
funny.
went and you asked him questions. And this is what you shared with me last night.
Yeah, what was it?
So you're so funny. Hold on, let me take one sip. So you asked him what he was afraid of, and he told you three things.
I said, tell me about 3 things that you're afraid of.
Because he's afraid to stay in his room by himself. So it's probably where you're kind of driving at.
Well, because he has all this anxiety. I wanted to know what is driving his anxiety all the time. Like, he's just always scared of things, and sometimes he'll tell us I'm scared or know, whatever.
Okay.
And so what was the first one?
So the first one, he said he's afraid that the world's going to explode.
Oh yeah,
that goes back to aliens.
I'm like, what do you mean the world's going to explode? He's like, well, and the aliens, how did they blow up the planet? And I'm like, well, there was bombs. Well, where was the bombs? So that is the bottom line was he was afraid. He's like, I know it's not going to happen, but I'm still scared, because he knows that the movie was just make believe,
right.
So, and then what was number 2?
Okay, so number 2 was he's afraid that the bad people are going to come into our house and take us. And I had to think where that came from, but I figured it out.
Okay.
Because all of this kind of times around late September, early October, when we were staying at the condo.
Yeah.
That's when he saw aliens.
Right.
His bonding time with Uncle Keith. And then we were teaching him stranger danger.
Oh.
Because we were at the condo, and we've had it at the hotel too, but he left the condo unit without us to go down to the lobby to see his other aunt and uncle. And we told him, you cannot leave without an adult, a trusted adult, someone. What does trusted mean? So we started explaining that there are bad people, and bad people will take you in. And we've talked about this on a past episode, trying to help him understand, although I knew when we would start telling him these things, because he is so literal and because he does have such high anxiety, this was the risk we were running by making the real world more real to him. But if we don't teach him these things, then we're not doing him any favors at all, because it is real. But now we have to reassure him that we keep our doors locked, we're safe, Mommy and Daddy are here to protect him, God and his angels are here to protect us, bad people aren't going to come in our house. And then he's like, but there are bad people everywhere in this world. Yes, there are. Yeah. You're right, there are, but there's lots of good people in the world.
And that led to the whole Twin Towers thing.
That was
last
2.
night.
Yeah. So then he told
3?
you number 3 was his fear that he would not have enough playtime.
Oh, right.
That he wouldn't earn enough playtime.
Yeah.
So that has a lot to do with school, because he gets breaks and he gets to play, and that's earning it. And then even when he's at therapy, he gets to earn certain things.
Yeah.
So he's worried that he won't have enough time and he has to work more than he gets to play.
Right.
So, it's a legit concern for his little 8-year-old mind. So apparently you guys had that conversation, but then you came back into our bed, because you told me that you guys had that conversation, and then you said, do you want to sleep with Mommy? And he says yes.
Right,
so then you came back and you recapped those.
Because
which
he had the
probably,
whole thing of people coming to get him. I'm like, you know what? You're wide awake. Let's just go to our bed and you can go to sleep.
Which was a good thing, because you would have forgotten the 3 things and we wouldn't be having this conversation. So we wrote them down. So then as for talking, and he's telling me these 3 things, and then Bryce says, and there's a bonus, another reason that I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And he called it a bonus. And that's when he said, I'm afraid that an airplane will hit the big buildings again.
Yeah.
And so this goes back to September 11th anniversary, and his art teacher mentioned it.
Briefly mentioned the
Very
Twin Towers, and Bryce was like 20 questions when she brought it up. So she elaborated enough to where it, he understood what happened, and he had why questions for the next couple of days after that.
And remember, this was 5 months ago. And here it is.
And not a peep since then.
Nope. He is. In fact, he wants to go to New York City. or a big city because he loves tall buildings
And he wants to ride the
hotels, and he
elevator.
wants to ride. But yet he has that fear that another airplane is going to crash. So then that led to more of the, why did they do that? There's bad people. But when this came up back in September, we quickly spun it to tell him there were lots of good people. We told him about the firefighters and the police officers. And so he brought that up last night. He goes, but there were the good people who saved the day, which comes from Paw Patrol. We're like, yes, they did save the day. And the firefighters did, and they helped the good people, and they help people get out, And so he gets the concepts, which is great, and yet he carries these fears with him to the point that when he lays down and his mind isn't preoccupied on a video game or a classroom subject or doing something else, his free time with his mind goes to these things that drum up anxiety and fears for him. And so the great news is that we're asking him these questions, which I'm so glad that you did, and he's answering them. And he's even giving us bonus answers.
I know.
Which is hilarious because before it was all we could do to get one, if not two.
Crying out of them,
That was a stretch to get three. And now he's offering up bonuses, which is, again, a testament to how far he's coming and how he's flourishing right now. So that was all very exciting. And then one more topic that we'll talk about, just getting deeper into Bryce's mind, has to do with writing, because this is something that he has struggled with for the past 2 years. I would say kindergarten, first grade, second grade. In therapy, we had the issue even with a therapist who was really kind of forcing him to write because she thought he was just trying to get out of it. When we're like, no, I think it's more than that. I think it's truly a struggle for him. And we made some changes there, and which was a good decision. But he likes typing, but he does not like writing. So today, you asked him about that, correct? Okay. Do you remember? It's fresh from today. I wrote notes, but go ahead and take it.
So he said that I wanted him to write a sentence in school today. I said, because we're doing more writing activities, and I'm afraid that if he doesn't start doing these writing activities, he's not going to catch on to the concept of paragraphs and essays.
Which you and I talked about that last night. I said you can't bypass that because that's how he's going to be able to develop, to continue to comprehend and have conversations.
And he can write. He knows all the letters and things like that, but it just pains him to write anything. Whenever I request him to write something, I get a lot of negative feedback. And so I was asking him today, I'm like, Bryce, I have a question for you. If you say it like that, he'll be like, what?
I know, he's
What's
all
the
in.
question, Daddy? What's the question?
Yes.
I'm like, why don't you like writing? And, we really haven't been able to ask him that before because it's always off-topic answer or something else that didn't make any sense.
Right.
And so he said that he said if I use a pencil,
You told me he said he doesn't feel right? Something like that?
or he had to erase a lot or something. He gave me a reason why I didn't want to use a pencil. And I'm like, okay. I said, well, what about a pen? And he said, okay. So I handed him a pen, and I said, I just want you to write down, I like oranges, because he likes oranges. And so he started to write with the pen, and he said, Daddy, he's like, I don't like writing because you write a lot faster than I do. And I said,
it's a race in his mind.
I don't know. I said,
I'm telling you.
I write faster because I've had a lot more practice than you. I'm a lot older than you, and I've written a lot, so I'm faster. I said, listen, you're faster at typing than I am because you practice a lot, and I didn't practice a lot, so you're faster typing. And then he said with the pen, he was afraid of going below the lines or, not staying on the lines. I said, okay. I said, well, how about a marker? And he says, yeah, that would be good. And so I handed him the marker, and then he wrote the whole thing out.
He does like markers best.
And I, was encouraging him as he wrote it out. And I said, see, you did a great job. And so he was afraid of being too slow writing. And I showed him as I was writing something down. I said, look, watch what happens when I write slow. And so I wrote a word really slow, and it was nice and neat. Mm-hmm. And I said, look, see how nice that looks compared to the words that I wrote fast? I said, it's better to look nice.
That's nice.
And so he got that concept, and I forgot what else.
Well, the lines.
Yeah, he was worried about the lines, and then...
And then just
Yeah, I posted the topic, in our Taka group on Facebook, and a bunch of people came back and chimed in, is it his grip? Because I've tried every writing utensil under the sun.
Yep.
I've tried every grip that you put on him. He's been through handwriting without tears, which was great, and that's how he learned the concept of writing and how the letters worked and how they looked. And so that was really good for him. And but he still hated writing. And one person said, "Well, could it be he has a weak grip? Test him on the monkey bars. See how he does on the monkey bars, if he can grip those." I said, "That's a good idea. I'll try that." And then somebody else came in, and what was the word they used?
Well, they said dysgraphia.
Dysgraphia, and there's some things about Bryce that he has trouble getting his thoughts to his hand. Like sometimes I'll have to write on the whiteboard what the sentence is for him to see it so he can write it down, because he can't think of in his mind what it looks like or how to do it. And or even some numbers, like in math, he'll say, "Daddy, I forgot what a 3 looks like." And I'll have to write a 3 down.
And yet he has known and recognized these numbers literally since he was 18 months old.
And also he doesn't put space between his sentences and his words. And I'm like, and I tell him over and over and over again. And come to find out, this dysgraphia describes that too.
I was going to say, so when you mentioned that today, I'm like, yes, I remember I had told you, and I might have even mentioned it on a podcast episode, but it was very enlightening to me in an aha moment that it was someone with autism who could explain that it was super hard for them to write things because they couldn't get from their brain to her hand what she was trying to say.
And it reminded me of the book Edo in Autism Land, and somebody on the post said he felt like he was writing with gloves on. It was that difficult for him to write. And
well, this definition, it says it can appear as difficulties with spelling or trouble putting thoughts on paper.
Yeah.
But it's a neurological disorder that generally appears when they're first learning to write, and they're just not sure what causes it. Apparently there's 3 kinds, and it can be treated, but it says it kind of goes with you for life. But they said occupational therapy was one of the best ways to treat it, and that it is a comorbid disorder that's associated with ASD.
Yeah.
So that's as far as I got with the research on that particular word, but I am telling you, I'm 100% convinced that he struggles with getting his thoughts that he's got going on in his brain to translate from the brain through his arm and into his fingers to put down in paper.
Yeah.
And they said it can actually cause physical pain. I don't know if he has physical pain, but I feel like he's like on that border of it. Like that's how much he just does not like
That's really what I was waiting for him to say when I was asking him. Like I didn't want to lead the witness, So if you tell him, "Oh, does it hurt your hand?" "Oh, yes, it hurts my hand."
Yeah, we try a lot not to do that.
You don't want to say the words. You want him to tell us. So anyway, but that was very interesting. That's just today we figured that out.
Yeah, well, it seems like this whole week he's been
telling us
a lot more. When we're asking questions, he just has been able to answer them, which
He's looking at me
been
in the
amazing.
eye. It's like,
know.
it's great.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. So let's get to our giveaway.
Okay.
That's what it sounds like.
It's like shaking a present.
So these are flashcards, sight words flashcards that we used with Bryce. And it's 220 words and 5 levels of flashcards. And let's see, it's for ages.
Was it kindergarten a second?
Age 4 plus,
Oh,
pre-K
4.
to
Great.
3rd grade. Okay.
There you go.
So, and they're color coded, and they're really cool. It helped Bryce out a lot with pronouncing words and learning what they were. And we're done with them now, so we'd like to pass them on to somebody. And if you want to look them up, they're called Game Note Sight Words Flashcards. So 220 words. So we're going to give it away. You can enter through our email, parentingautism@att.net. Send us an email and say, hey, I want to be in the drawing for the flashcards.
Yep.
And if you're at that level where you think you need these, then by all means, enter the contest, and we'll announce the winner on the next show.
4 to 3rd grade, yeah, that's pretty good span.
Mm-hmm, pre-K to 3rd.
Yep.
So...
Okay, I think I've done great to get through this with only one coughing episode that hopefully will be edited out properly. And we're happy to be back on here. We're planning on being back more often. I know one episode coming up soon is as soon as we get his ABA plan, which is getting signed off on, I'm going to review it because I think it's important to know what's in a plan at age 8, which is very different than age 4, even age 6. We're just in a different place, but it's exciting to me what we're going to be working on, especially as we see how Bryce is progressing. So I'm going to be sharing that. We're also going to be doing an episode to share about how we're teaching him independence and tools that we're finding and creative ways to help teach him to become more independent.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So that's some stuff that's going to be coming up here shortly. Just a little tease. And again, Happy New Year. Thanks for your patience waiting for us to come back. We'll wrap up now, and we'll talk to you soon.
That's it. That's a wrap. See ya.
Bye.